Hello everyone. This video lecture is recorded to teach students of certificate course in sports nutrition organized by SAI and doesn't carry any conflicts of interest. To introduce about myself, I am Dr. Jahnavi Dande, working as sports physician and scientific officer at NSNIS Patiala. So let us start the session. In this lecture titled Principles and Methods of Recovery in Sports, you will be learning about what is recovery, what are the various factors that affect recovery in sports, what are the various recovery principles, the recovery methods or strategies, which are evidence based and which are not, and recovery monitoring, how to monitor the recovery of an athlete. What is recovery? Recovery is defined as restoration of physiological and psychological processes. You can also add physical. So, restoration of physical, physiological, and psychological processes so that the athlete can compete or train again at an appropriate level. What happens when you do training? Training, it hampers the physiological and psychological processes in the body. So it creates a phase of decompensation. The fatigue creates a state of decompensation in the athlete's body. So during recovery, what is happening? This decompensation is again recompensated. This is what you can see in the supercompensation curve. So the restoration of all these processes to take up the training load the next day or the next training load. This is called recovery. You see, performance is nothing but a balance between fatigue and recovery. It means if the fatigue is more and recovery is less, then the athlete will not get good performance. He will be overtrained. And when the fatigue is less, he is recovering more, then he will go in a condition called undertraining. So performance, for a good performance or for an optimum performance, you need to maintain a balance between fatigue and recovery. Let us look into the factors that affect recovery. There are various factors which affect the recovery of an athlete. Like for example, if you see the training related factors, the volume of training, intensity of training, duration of training, and the type of training or the type of sport. The degree of fatigue also affects the recovery. And recovery from previous training or competition. This is also very important because if the athlete is not recovered from previous training and he is taking up the new training load again, then his recovery will be more delayed. Then nutrition aspects, if you see, the carbohydrate, protein and other nutrient intake, pre-exercise or pre-competition meal also affects the recovery, as well as during competition or during training. The fluid which you replace, what are the constituents that you have to replace? Then post training or post competition recovery, nutrition also affects the recovery. Fluid and electrolyte balance, this is also very important. A dehydrated athlete takes longer time to recover. If you look into the psychological stresses, stress and anxiety either from competition or from any other things also can affect the recovery of the athlete. Then lifestyle issues, the quality and amount of sleep, his sleep schedule, housing situation, leisure or social activities, his relationship matters, then how is he behaving with his teammates, coaches, friends and family, his job, schooling situation, etc. etc. All these lifestyle issues also affect the recovery of an athlete. That's why in foreign countries nowadays we will see lifestyle mentors along with the team to tackle the lifestyle issues of the elite athletes. Just like a nutritionist, a psychologist, a sports physician who will be with the team. Now you can see even lifestyle mentors to tackle these situations. Then health aspects like illnesses, infections, injuries, muscle soreness and muscle damage, all this will affect the recovery of an athlete. A healthy athlete can perform well. He can give his 100%. Whereas if an athlete is having some even subclinical illnesses, like without any clinical symptoms, but there is some problem, some disease that is inside him, or some minor pains, they can help him to train, but he may not give his 100%. That's why you should always remember, a healthy athlete means he can give a good performance. Then environmental issues also, like temperature, humidity, altitude, all these will affect the recovery. The same factors will also affect the fatigue level of an athlete. After training, how he is taking up the training load, how much effort he is feeling for the same training load, all these factors, all these things are dependent upon the factors which I have mentioned now. So the same factors affect fatigue as well as the recovery. Now let us look into the recovery principles. The recovery is not uniform to everyone. That is, it is individualized. Every person responds to the recovery strategies in a unique fashion. Just like training is individualized, recovery is also individualized. Then you should consider all the factors which I have mentioned in the previous slide when you are considering or when you are formulating any recovery strategy. Adequate time you should give to an athlete to recover. Recover deeper than faster. You should ensure a deep, like a complete recovery than faster recovery. And recovery monitoring. This is very important. Just like you monitor training load, just like you monitor nutritional status of an athlete, just like you monitor health of an athlete, you should also monitor the recovery of an athlete. Why? Because early identification of athlete's improper recovery you can tackle it at that point to prevent the athlete from going into overtraining or overreaching, etc. So early identification of recovery problems is very essential. That's why monitoring is very essential. Then you should adopt evidence-based recovery strategies. This is again very important because there are hell number of recovery strategies available. There are many equipment also available nowadays in the market for better recovery, for enhancing the recovery of athlete. But before suggesting any recovery strategy, you should check for the evidence, which is research based, which is evidence based. You have to apply that only. That will give you more results. Let us learn about the recovery patterns. Recovery pattern is usually biphasic. There is a rapid phase as well as a slower phase. In rapid phase, what is happening is metabolic recovery occurs immediately post training or competition. And a slower phase of recovery occurs during subsequent days. It is related to muscular repair. So the micro trauma that occurs due to training, for that to repair, it takes few days. It takes a longer period. Whereas the metabolic recovery, as nutritionist, you should learn or you should be more concerned about this metabolic recovery, which starts immediately post training or competition. That's why you have to replenish carbohydrate, protein and fluids. You have to start replenishing within 30 minutes of the match or training. Clear? This slide shows what are all the things that you should do before providing any recovery strategy to an athlete. For example, when you are with the team as a nutritionist, so first you should think which game or which sport you are giving the support, scientific support to. And you should think of what are all the actions in that sport during training that may lead to fatigue in your athlete. Then what is the time needed for these athletes to fully recover? And then you have to plan about what are the recovery strategies that are available that you can provide. Based on all these three things, you can suggest one recovery plan which you can monitor further. Now looking into the causes of fatigue in any sport. This is in general. So muscle damage, glycogen depletion, dehydration, as well as mental fatigue. All these will cause fatigue in an athlete. So you should try to tackle these causes post-training to ensure the recovery in your athlete. In this slide, you can see the various activities and the time taken for them to recover. So these activities are impaired after the match, that is because of fatigue, and they take certain time to recover. What I mean to understand by this slide is, if you see creatine kinase, because you people are nutritionists, I am taking the example of creatine kinase. After any match or after any training session, because of muscle trauma or muscle damage, there is an increase in creatine kinase. And to become this creatine kinase to come to its previous state, it takes, you see, almost 120 hours to recover completely after a football match. This research has been done in football. So after any football match, creatine kinase takes almost 120 hours to recover. What does it mean? It means you should give sufficient time. Time factor is very essential. Similarly, in your sport, there may be many activities which you people are performing. For all these activities to recover, it takes some time. Usually 72 to 96 hours is the proposed time for recovery for most of the activities like sprints, jumps, strength, all these things. Now let us learn about some recovery strategies. So there are n number of recovery strategies or methods available, but out of which I am highlighting here only those which have some evidence base. So recovery strategies are divided into two types. One is passive recovery and the other is active recovery. There are certain passive recovery methods. Passive recovery means in which the athlete will not do anything. The recovery will be done passively. Whereas active recovery means here the athlete performs active exercise or physical activity, a low intensity physical activity. This is otherwise called warm down or cool down. So recovering by performing exercises or by doing physical activity is called active recovery. So now let us look into the various passive recovery methods and how to perform the active recovery in the next slides. Let us look into the various passive recovery strategies. Sleep, nutrition and hydration, psychological strategies, cold water immersion, massage, compression garments and electrostimulation. All these are the various passive methods of recovery which have some evidence behind them. Let us look into the sleep. Sleep lowers the metabolic rate, It relaxes the body and thus enhances the recovery. It is the quality of the sleep, the duration of the sleep, and the sleep pattern. All these are important. Quality of the sleep, what do you understand by it? So, in between, if the athlete is getting up, how many sleep wake cycles he is completing, whether he is getting up in between or from the start, once he goes to bed, how much time does he take to get sleep? One should sleep within half an hour after lying down in bed. That is a good pattern. Then, duration of the sleep. Usually, an athlete should sleep for at least 8 hours for adequate recovery. So, if he is sleeping for lesser duration, then he may not recover properly or adequately. Then, sleep pattern. So, how exactly, whether he is sleeping lightly, for minor disturbances he is waking up, or he is going into deep sleep, all these will help in, all these will identify you to identify the athlete's recovery. And you have to teach the athlete proper sleep patterns, and you have to teach him to sleep at least for more than 8 hours for adequate recovery. Nowadays, even you will find some garments called athlete recovery sleep wear. What does it exactly do? It incorporates the bioceramic technology into a pattern lining the garments. So this technology, these bioceramic particles, they absorb the infrared wavelengths emitted by the body and reflect back. That is, they reflect the far infrared energy and thus helping the body to recover faster while promoting better sleep. In other words, this sleepwear is supposed to enhance the recovery by enhancing the sleep. So, this is a safe type of radiation they suggest or they propose, and that means the muscles and joints regenerate faster if you wear this sleepwear. This is also used by some athletes in foreign countries, elite athletes. So, the same technology, the far infrared technology, is even used in sauna baths and steam baths to enhance the recovery. So, the same technology they have utilized in this sleepwear. Now, let us learn about the recovery nutrition, which is very important to know for you people as nutritionists. So, evidence says that the rate of muscle glycogen storage is 33% greater with earlier carbohydrate feeding, that is within 1 hour, compared to delayed feeding, that is more than 2 hours. That's why you should feed the athlete within 1 hour to ensure the recovery or to enhance the recovery. Post-exercise carbohydrate intake should be 1 to 1.2 gram per kg body weight of a moderate to high glycemic index food. You know the glycemic index. It is nothing but the absorption capacity. Depends on the absorption capacity of the food. So, usually pre-exercise, it's better to use a low to moderate glycemic index food. And post-exercise for recovery, a high glycemic index food is very much beneficial. The rate of protein turnover in skeletal muscle increases in 30 minutes post-training. Even protein turnover also increases within the 30 minutes. That's why it's always beneficial to replenish protein also in the recovery diet within 30 minutes or in the recovery drink. Ingestion of 15 to 20 grams of protein immediately after exercise is advised, as no significant increase in muscle fractional synthetic rates are observed with intakes greater than 20 grams. It means there is no need to give more than 20 grams of protein immediately after exercise. Ideally, this protein source should contain 6 to 9 grams of branched chain amino acids to increase net protein synthesis. So, in recovery protein, you have to give branched chain amino acids. What do? They increase the protein synthesis. Then carbohydrates consumed together with protein within 30 minutes of exercise improves glycogen repletion, protein balance and markers of muscle damage, all of which subsequently improve the future performance by enhancing the recovery. So the ratio also it should be, you can keep it as 1:3 or 1:4, like 1 part of protein to 4 parts of or 3 parts of carbohydrate is very much beneficial for enhancing the recovery of an athlete. Looking into the hydration, the consensus guidelines on hydration recommend commencing exercise in a euhydrated state, drinking to thirst and planning fluid intake strategies to avoid body mass losses more than 2%. So, exercise has to begin in a euhydrated state. That is, pre-exercise hydration is very much essential. And the athlete should drink to thirst and fluid intake strategies have to be followed during the training also to avoid the body mass losses, that is weight loss in the form of sweat, because when you exercise you will get sweat. So this weight loss should not be more than 2% of the body mass, because weight loss due to sweat during physical activity, it causes the dehydration. So you have to hydrate the athlete during the training also. Fluid loss is equal to the body mass pre-exercise minus body mass post-exercise plus the fluid consumed. So before exercise, if you take the body weight, then after exercise, you have to take the body weight. So to calculate how much fluid is lost from the body, you can use this formula. Pre-exercise body weight minus post-exercise body weight plus how much fluid is consumed during exercise. All these will give the fluid lost from the athlete's body due to training. So how you have to replace? You have to replace this fluid loss 1.5% of lost fluid within 4 to 6 hours post exercise. So for example, if 500 ml of fluid is lost, you have to replace it with 750 ml of fluid within 4 to 6 hours of post exercise. Clear? Let us look into vitamins and minerals and what is the evidence. Evidence suggests that vitamin A, B6, B12, C, D, E and folic acid and the trace elements like iron, zinc, copper, selenium, all these work in synergy to support the protective activities of the immune cells. Combined with an adequate energy intake post-exercise, these nutrients may protect and maintain health and performance during periods of heightened stress. So these vitamins and minerals along with your balanced diet will enhance the immune system and at the same time they reduce the stress due to physical activity and thus can enhance the recovery. Let us look into how to enhance the psychological aspects of recovery. So progressive muscle relaxation techniques, they will reduce the muscle soreness. Meditation, which relaxes the mind and causes mental relaxation. And listening to light music or spending time on activities that enhance your mood Discussing training aspects with the coach. This is again very essential. If the athlete feels psychologically satisfied that his coach is, he can identify what are all the weaknesses in him so that he can incorporate them in his next training schedule. In this way, a clear communication and counseling can also enhance the psychological aspects of recovery of an athlete. Now let us look into the hydrotherapy or cold water immersion. Post exercise cold water immersion. There are various types of therapies you can give after exercise to enhance the recovery. One is post exercise cold water immersion. The other is contrast water therapy, in which cold and hot will be given alternatively. It is beneficial especially for those who perform high intensity efforts. How do they help? They have got a strong influence on parasympathetic reactivation and can help in enhancing the recovery. So you might have seen elite athletes after a training schedule or after a match, they will be seen immersed in ice water or cold water baths. This will help them to enhance the recovery. Massage is also an effective way of enhancing the recovery. 1 to 2 massage treatments per week can be advised for an elite athlete. However, this can vary depending on sport and competition phase. If the athlete is in pre-competition or competition phase where the intensity of training is more, you can even increase the massage sessions. Increased blood flow is one of the main mechanisms proposed to improve the recovery. So during massage, due to massage, what happens? Massage is nothing but rhythmic stimulation of the muscles of the body or the tissues of the body by means of mechanical manipulation, given usually in the form of strokes. Massage is beneficial in improving psychological aspects of recovery. There is evidence that massage improves the psychological aspects of recovery. Means the athlete feels that he is relaxed now, he is recovered now. The feeling. So how it enhances the mood state of the athlete? It enhances the perceived soreness. Just after training, what happens? The athlete will feel soreness in his muscles. So this soreness will be, athlete will have a feeling that now he doesn't have any soreness. And perceptions of recovery, he feels that he has recovered. All these are the psychological benefits of the massage. So massage even has got a role in reducing the muscle soreness and preventing the injuries, because a sore muscle, if you don't relax it, it becomes tight. Then a tight muscle is responsible for injuries. So even in injury prevention, massage helps an athlete. There are various types of massage like effleurage, petrissage, vibration, then tapotement, rolling, friction. There are many types of massage. So there are certain equipments also, ready-made equipments available in the market. Like you see in this slide, there is a foam roller. So what it does, it gives some vibrations. It's a form of vibration therapy which releases the muscle tension, and it helps in releasing the DOMS, that is delayed onset muscle soreness, which occurs in the muscles after strength training especially. So this is one equipment which can be used to provide a massage using vibration therapy. Hypervolt. This is also another type of equipment which can be used, that is available in the market, which can be used to release tightness and soreness of the muscles. It also utilizes the same vibration therapy. Stretching and recovery. There are only few studies to indicate that stretching promotes recovery. But stretching doesn't have any detrimental or side effects. whereas it doesn't have any benefit also for enhancing the recovery. Stretching mainly what it does, it releases the tightness of the muscle, or it releases the tension in the muscle. It relaxes the muscle. But whether it essentially enhances the recovery, there are only few studies which indicate there is no benefit of stretching for enhancing recovery. Let us look into the electrical stimulation. So, electrical stimulation of certain muscles also can enhance the recovery. And this has been tried as a recovery measure. So, what is the evidence behind this? They are not beneficial for improving physiological recovery, but they can benefit by causing perceptual or psychological recovery. Used distally, basically electrical stimulation is used for distal muscles like muscles of the calf to maximize the muscle pump effect and increase the venous return. It has to be delivered in lower doses for a prolonged period, like overnight. In weight bearing and contact sports, there is evidence that it reduces the signs of muscle damage and soreness. So in this slide you can see the electrical stimulation that is provided over the back. This is an equipment called Mark Pro, which is an electronic muscle conditioning device. And there is evidence that it reduces the muscle fatigue and soreness via using the electrical muscle stimulation. Let us look into the compression garments. So, compression garments, which are worn for the lower limbs especially, they improve the venous return through application of graduated compression. They gradually compress the limbs and increase the venous return. So, the external pressure created may reduce the intramuscular space available for swelling and promotes the stable alignment of muscle fibers. So, muscle micro trauma that occurs in the muscles will be recovered. And it also attenuates the inflammatory response and thus reduces the muscle soreness. So, how do these compression garments act? They are supposed to reduce the inflammation caused because of physical activity. Physical activity causes micro trauma, which again causes the inflammation. And they also help in stable alignment because they exert a pressure and help in stable alignment of the muscle fibers so that the muscle fibers recover early. So here you can see in this slide, the athlete is wearing a compression garment which utilizes the pneumatic compression technology. In dynamic pulses, compression will be given by this garment, and if an athlete wears for a prolonged period, then it enhances the recovery by decreasing the muscle soreness. Now let us learn about the active recovery methods, that is warm down or cool down. It is the most common form of recovery. It is the cheapest and safest form of recovery that can be done by the athletes. What it does? It enhances the blood flow to the exercised area and lactate clearance. Helps in lactate clearance and clearance of other metabolic waste products by increasing the oxygen delivery to the muscles. Warm down also reduces the muscle soreness. There are various types of warm down like cycling, jogging, aqua jogging, that is in a treadmill underwater, or swimming. All these activities, any low intensity aerobic activity can be done as a part of warm down. The intensity should not be more than 50%. It should be around 45 to 50%. This enhances the recovery in a safest way. Now let us look into the recovery monitoring. What are all the factors that you have to monitor in order to monitor the recovery of an athlete. So daily and weekly monitoring can be done. You can monitor either daily or every week depending upon the available circumstances. Then fatigue or perceived exertion, that is the rate of perceived exertion. How much effort he is feeling after a workout. That can be noted. And the sleep, both quality, quantity and the patterns can be noted. The nutrition of an athlete can be monitored. Hydration status can be monitored. Objective method is by measuring the specific gravity of the urine, or subjectively by measuring the color of the urine. Then muscle soreness can be monitored subjectively. You can ask the athlete how sore he is feeling and to grade it on a scale. Then the lifestyle stressors the athlete is facing, whether there is any competition, whether there is any personal problem, personal issues, relationship issues, all can be monitored. Then there are certain ready-made self-reported wellness questionnaires also, like TQR questionnaire, then REST-Q. All these are the profile of mood states. All these can help in monitoring the recovery of an athlete. Even certain devices have been designed to monitor the recovery objectively. So this is in this slide you can see a watch type of thing, which is nothing but Whoop's data output. It monitors the strain, recovery and the sleep performance and gives a recovery score, which is measured in percentage. This percentage is scored based on two indicators. One is resting heart rate and heart rate variability. Based on these two indicators or these two parameters, the recovery score can be calculated, and this machine provides that recovery score. So frequently you can monitor and you can identify any recovery issues within the athlete at an early stage. So to conclude, the take-home points from this lecture are: well-documented benefits of adequate sleep health, both quality and quantity of sleep, adequate rest, appropriate dieting and nutritional intake, cold water immersion, all these present an evidence-based strategy to improve function and performance after acute periods of high training and match loads. So sleep, rest, diet and nutrition and cold water immersion, they will definitely enhance the recovery. Further strategies including active recovery, stretching, compression garments and massage may have perceived benefits but are not strongly supported by evidence. And recovery monitoring is very essential to obtain an overall estimate of athletes' recovery strategies in response to high training and match loads in sports. So with monitoring, you can identify the recovery issues at an early stage and can formulate best strategies. With this, I conclude the session. Thank you.